If time travel was real, and you wanted to use that power to discuss the future Pokemon metagame with me, Colin Higher Third in the world, and you traveled back in time, came in my apartment, and decided to tell me that in the new Pokemon game Scarlet and Violet for the Nintendo Switch, that Murkrow would be one of the best Pokemon in the game and will be sitting currently at number 3 in usage, I'd simply tell you to go f*** yourself. To understand Murkrow's dominance, I think we need to teleport back in time. Let's quickly jump back to the Sword and Shield days. Now, in Sword and Shield, they made a giant change that would change Pokemon forever. In the past, speed was determined at the beginning of the turn. So that meant that no matter what happened during the turn, the Pokemon would move in the order which their speed stats would indicate. And obviously this was affected by stuff like Tailwind, Icy Wind, Trick Room. But it was determined at the beginning of the turn. But in Sword and Shield, for whatever reason, they wanted to change it up. They changed up the formula, and it was instead dynamic speed, which meant that it was ever changing. So if you got hit by an Icy Wind mid-turn, your Pokemon speed order could adjust and would change based on how much speed you lost. But that also meant that if you set up Tailwind during your turn, it would double your speed instantaneously. Now that brought rise to the king of Tailwind himself, Whimsicott. Whimsicott became one of the most dominant Pokemon in the game throughout Sword and Shield. This also meant, obviously, that stuff like Max Airstream and Icy Wind and stuff became a little bit more valuable, especially on the faster side. In the past, Cresselia was one of the best Icy Wind users. Because it was so slow and bulky, you would set up Icy Winds and then you'd slowly start to outspeed your opponent as turns went on. But nowadays, you'd rather just have a Gengar, a max speed Gengar with max speed that slows them down, and then you're ready to go instantly, and you can set up combos like Gengar plus whatever, Gengar Togekiss, slow them down, smack them around. It makes a lot of sense, and the value of those slow Icy Winders was a little bit lost. But obviously, the biggest benefactor of this was Tailwind. Now let's talk about Murkrow. Murkrow obviously is currently sitting at 30% usage, well, 27.56% usage, but that is almost a third of the teams on the ladder you're going to encounter on Murkrow. Murkrow currently pairs extremely well with the top 2 Pokemon. Garchomp and Goldango have both amazing synergy with Murkrow. Obviously, you set up Tailwind for both of them, and you even avoid Earthquakes with Garchomp, and you start out with this nice core of Pokemon that is really fast and can do big damage together. But obviously that's just the ladder. Let's check out the most recent tournament from Victory Road. On Victory Road, Murkrow is sitting at a nice crisp 41.59% usage, which is absolutely absurd. We're approaching almost half of the players in the tournament using this Pokemon. 40% is no joke. That is definitely a very, very strong Pokemon, and a Pokemon that is firmly in control of the meta right now. Now, obviously Talonflame does exist, and it does have access to Priority Tailwind, but that's only circumstantial, only when it has full HP. And obviously, it doesn't always have full HP, especially because it runs a lot of recoil moves. So Murkrow just became the solution to Talonflame, because Talonflame was gaining a lot of hype early on. It was doing okay, but then Murkrow just not really came out of nowhere, but it just started dominating the game in a very, very meaningful way, and it became this ridiculous partner for hyper offense. Now, why Murkrow? What makes Murkrow so good? I think part of that is its variety of support moves and the way it interacts with the meta. Currently, I would say the standard set is Tailwind, Foul Play, Taunt, and Haze. Obviously, a lot of these moves can be shifted around. I've seen Brave Bird over Foul Play. I've seen Protect or Quash over Taunt. And Haze is usually pretty necessary. So the only move that is not changing is obviously Tailwind. Again, this is the big selling point of running Murkrow, is that you get to set up this priority Tailwind with a Prankster Dark type, which is really, really strong. But the support moves are nothing to shrug at either. Foul Play basically means you have really strong, consistent damage. And I think it's always important for support Pokemon to have a consistent damage move. You'll see it all the time. Cresselia used to run Ice Beam and Psychic. Whimsicott runs Moonblast. Tornadus ran Hurricane. They usually have a very, very strong high base power move that they can spam. Grimmsnarl runs Spear Break. That they can spam and be as useful as possible even when they're not using their supportive moves, because sometimes you just can't press them. And Murkrow Foul Play is perfect. Foul Play obviously takes the attack of the opponent and whips it around on them and smacks you with a really strong Foul Play. So basically, that means Murkrow has the attack stat of whoever it's hitting, which means you can invest all in bulk, which is amazing and incredible, and also foul play is obviously stab. So Pokemon like Garchomp and Gyarados really suffer versus Murkrow because sometimes Murkrow is doing half of their HP with a strong foul play, which is absurd. Also, Intimidate not being good is great for Murkrow because it means you're not running Intimidate on your team, and that means that foul play is doing more. What makes Haze so good? So currently there's a Pokemon named Dondozo who's specifically terrorizing teams and being a complete and absolute menace to this game. But with Haze, all of that is removed. Dondozo relies completely on setting up its boost from its partner Tatsugiri. So if you run Haze, Dondozo no longer a problem, making Murkrow one of the go-to answers to Dondozo at the current moment. One thing else that you can note about Haze is that it's just super good at shutting down any sort of setup, whether that's a Swords Dance from Garchomp or Iron Defense from Garganacl. Either way, it doesn't matter because Murkrow is shutting you down with Haze, and as long as this little bird is alive, you are not playing the game in the way you want to. Now, the last move I'd like to talk about is Taunt. Taunt is obviously great for a variety of reasons. It can shut down Trick Room, it can shut down Setup. It just stops things happening before they happen. It's a great move at diffusing the situation and just stopping your opponent from using any sort of shenanigans or setup moves, obviously, which is super important in VGC. It can also stop you from using Protect. So Taunt has endless uses. Obviously, you can run other moves. We've seen Icy Wind, Quash. I saw Thunder Wave on the list. There's a lot of moves this mon gets. So overall, Murkrow's got a variety of moves that can fit any situation. Another reason Murkrow is so fire right now is that it is a pre-evolution. Normally that's obviously very bad. It has less stats than Honchkrow. It's generally pretty worse, but it does give it access to the item Evolite. And remember, we don't need any attack investment because we're using foul play. So we run Evolite, we're insanely bulky, living a majority of the hits in the game that we need to, and we're just causing endless problems with our bulk and with our supportive moves. Now obviously countering Murkrow is no easy feat, but there are several ways you can do it. You can set up Trick Room. That's always really great. You can run a Murkrow of your own and run Icy Wind or Quash. That's something that's picking up a lot of steam on ladder that I've noticed when I've been playing my Murkrow teams. Another option, of course, is to just shut it down with Fake Out. This is a Pokemon that doesn't traditionally run Protect, so Fake Out does do pretty well into it. You can also bulk down with something like Grimmsnarl, set up your screens. Who cares about speed if you're just the bulkiest dude on the planet? There's just many counterplays to Murkrow, but Priority Tailwind still just hits different. Now let's talk about partners. Murkrow has incredible synergy with a ton of the top tier Pokemon. Obviously Garchomp and Murkrow are best buddies. Earthquake, flying type. A tail as old as time. It's godlike, it's good. There's nothing that really needs to be changed about it. It's just very strong. Another thing to note is that Haze has a lot of synergy with a lot of Murkrow's partners. Two of Murkrow's best friends, Golden Glow and Hydreigon, who have perfect synergy, who I also made a video about, you should go check that out, are very susceptible to dropping their own stats. Golden Glow's Make It Rain lowers its special attack by 1, and Draco Meteor lowers your special attack by 2, obviously. But what's really sick about Murkrow is you can actually use Haze in an offensive way. You can actually remove those stat drops from yourself, and then you can go the in and just spam Dracos and Make It Rains even more. Now, obviously, those are like a very aggressive 3 that Murkrow synergizes really well with, but I also think it synergizes incredibly well with Pokemon like Annihilape. Obviously, Annihilape is a more defensive Pokemon, but as we saw last weekend in the VR tournament, there were several players who were running Annihilape, Murkrow, and Grimmsnarl, basically to give Annihilape everything. You give it screens, you give it Tailwind, you give it Taunt and Haze, and it's just going absolutely nuts. So I think that's another option that you can actually run with Murkrow. A little different, obviously, but something that is still very effective. Obviously, Murkrow can just apply more speed to any Pokemon, so more or less every single Pokemon in the game can benefit from more speed, outside of like really weird outliers, like maybe like Torkoal. But Murkrow, for the most part, is just benefiting your team in those ways. It also is just really good at shutting down opponents. So Taunt, stuff like that can be really invaluable, especially for a faster team. If you're trying to deal with Trick Room, Taunt's amazing. Obviously, there's stuff like Indeedee floating around that can cause you problems. It can stop your priority Taunt. But outside of that, you can shut down a lot of the setup mons and just cause Pokemon like Golden Glow or like Garchomp insane problems. I think mastering the art of Murkrow is extremely valuable, as he becomes one of the most broken Pokemon in the game just because of Priority Tailwind. It's a Pokemon that I don't see leaving if the Paradox Pokemon ever return. I still think Priority Tailwind will be very good, especially when you're competing against stuff like Fluttermane. Trying to outspeed Fluttermane could be next to impossible, so having a Murkrow with Tailwind sounds pretty nice. I think Murkrow is here to stay, and I expect to have to fight against this little bird until Worlds this year. Unless Whimsicott magically appears back in the game, I expect Murkrow to be a top tier threat for a while longer. Now, I hope you liked this video. I put a lot of work into it. I appreciate a like, but, you know, just you watching is all I need. But thank you guys so much. I hope you guys have a great and amazing day, and I hope you spam Murkrow teams to your heart's content and harass as many people as possible with this evil bird and this murder of Murkrows, this murder of crows. Murkrow. Oh man, what a funny joke. It's named Murkrow because it's a murder of crows. That's crazy. Anyways, thank you guys so much for watching. I hope you guys have a great and amazing day, and I'll see you guys next time. Please like, comment, subscribe.